Okay, so we're starting on page 590. We're going to start with example 4 at the top. It says, the table shows the number of necklaces Ari can make based on the number of hours she works. Write a function rule to find the number of necklaces she can make in X hours. So we've already learned function rules. Remember, we had to look at the input and see what operation we had to do to get to its corresponding output. So from 1 to get to 5, we could add 4 to 1, or we can multiply 5 to 1 to get 5. But we need to see which of those is going to work for the whole function rule. So 2 plus 4 doesn't give us 7, it gives us 6. 2 times 5 gives us 10, not 7. So notice how no operation is working for this function rule. So when that happens, you're going to have a two-step function rule. So remember that two-step equations have multiplication or division and addition or subtraction. So to find the first operation of the function rule, you need to find the change in the y values. Remember, the outputs are y and the inputs are x, and divide it by the change in the x values. So what I mean by changes, look at the change between the y values 5 and 7. That's an increase of 2. And then look at the change in the next y values 7 and 9. That's an increase of 2. So the change in y for this problem is an increase in 2. Now let's find the change in the x values. So from 1 to 2, that's an increase of 1. From 2 to 3, that's an increase of 1. So the change in the x values are 1. And 2 divided by 1, that simplifies to 2. So you use that to find your multiplication of the equation. So you're going to use that number as 2 times every input. That's always going to be the first part of your equation. So now that we know that the first part of the equation is to multiply each input by 2, let's see what we get when we do that first part. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, and 3 times 2 is 6. So we found our multiplication or division. Now we need to find the addition or subtraction. So let's look at the numbers we have now and see what addition or subtraction we have to do to get to our output. So I could do 2 plus 3 to get to 5, 4 plus 3 to get to 7, 6 plus 3 to get to 9. So the last part of the equation is add 3. So the whole function rule for this one is 2x plus 3. So now we're going to scroll down and do another problem like this. Let's do number 3 down at the bottom. The table at the right shows the fee for overdue books at a library based on the number of weeks the book is overdue. Write a function rule to find the fee for a book that is X weeks overdue. So first you want to check if it's a one step. So from 1 to get to 3, we would add 2 or times 3. So if I add 2 to 2, I would get 4, not 5. So that doesn't work. If I multiply by 3, I would get 6. So that doesn't work. So we know that this is not a one-step function rule. This one's going to be a two-step function rule. So first we need to find the change in y over the change in x. So the change in y here is increase by 2, increase by 2, increase by 2. The change in y is increase by 1, the change in x, increase by 1, increase by 1. So this one again is 2. So the first part of the equation is going to be 2 times x. So whatever you get as your change in y over change in x, you multiply that by the input, which is x, and that's the first part of your equation. So now we're going to multiply by 2 and see what we need to add or subtract as our next part of the equation. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 2 is 6, 4 times 2 is 8. So we would need to add 1 to get 3, add 1 to get 5, add 1 to get 7, and add 1 to get 9. So the second part of our equation is plus 1. So our function rule is 2x plus 1. Okay, we're going to go over to page 591, and we'll do one more like this, number 4. The table shows the amount it costs to rock climb at an indoor rock climbing facility based on the number of hours. What is the rule to find the amount charged to rock climb for X hours? So first we check if it's a one step. So to get from our input to our output, we'd have to add 12 or multiply by 13. So if we add 12 to 2, we'd get 14. If we multiply by 13, we'd get 26. So because none of those work, we know that this is going to be a two-step equation. So we have to find the change in y over the change in x. So change in y is 21 minus 13, so that's an increase of 8. And then again, an increase of 8, and then again, an increase of 8. X is increase of 1, increase of 1, increase of 1. So change in y over change in x equals to 8. So the first part of our function rule is going to be 8 times the input. Now we're going to do 8 times the input and see what we need to add or subtract. So this is going to be 8, 16, 24, and 32. So to get from 8 to 13, we would need to add 5. 16 plus 5 is 21. 24 plus 5 is 29. And 32 plus 5 is 37. So the next part of the function rule is to add 5. So our function rule is 8x plus 5.